Lending is building the most transparent borrowing experience in crypto. Get industry-leading rates from 8.49% APR, borrow against Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Solana, and receive USD or USDC within minutes. Your assets stay protected with qualified custody, no rehypothecation, and verifiable segregated addresses. As your collateral grows, unlock more liquidity, adjust your line anytime, and extend your term with a single click. And with 24/7 white glove support, you're never on your own. Arch Lending, simple tiers, public pricing, market-leading rates at every size. Check them out at archlending.com/debates. Again, it's archlending.com/debates. Use code debates to get 50 basis points off your APR on your crypto-backed loan today. Welcome to the debate room. We have I've been very excited for this guest. We're not taking teams. We're going to be going through a multitude of topics. And we will have Orion try to support what he believes. So there's kind of a mix of group of people here. They all have different backgrounds. We tried to do a good job of kind of getting a different group of people that are going to try to kind of go through a lot of the things that Orion talks about. But first, Dustin, welcome to the show. What's up? Dustin, you're muted.
So, of this wide array of topics, where are we going with? Where are we going?
Orion discusses the modern dating realm. So a lot of the things that we like to talk about, some of Grant's favorite topics, who's better, men and women, who is the prize? Should men be focused on finances before relationships? Are people all with the wrong partners? These sorts of things.
So an area that on modern dating, I'm definitely an expert in this field. All secondhand, of course. So it should be fun.
How many kids do you have again, Dustin?
4.
That's what I thought.
3 daughters and a boy.
Cool. So you can talk about this just fine.
And that they're probably more in tune with like the modern dating scene than I am. So not sure how much expertise I bring to the current topic, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, you know a lot about everything. You don't have to sell yourself short. Hi, Orion. How are you? Can you give us an intro to you and your Psych Hacks website and where people can find you?
Sure. Dana, thanks for having me on the channel. This is really cool. I haven't had a debate in a while, so I'm kind of nervous and excited. So my name's Orion Taraban. I'm a clinical psychologist. I have a small private practice here in California. I have a YouTube platform. It used to be called Psych Hacks. Now I just go by my name, Orion Taraban. It has nearly 1 million subscribers and I think 200 million views. I have written a book on relationships called The Value of Others. It's surpassed 100,000 units since publication in 2024. And I do a bunch of other stuff as well, but that's kind of my credentials, is that I'm an academic, a clinician, and then I've turned into social media and authorship.
So Orion, I've seen a lot of your, Dr. Orion, I've seen a lot of your videos, and what made you start recording all of this? Because I know that you were more in the acting scene in, you know, your early days, and then you kind of moved into this. What compelled you to start making content on this subject?
Wow, you're a fan. You already know a little bit about me. So first of all, just call me Orion. You don't have to call me Dr. Orion or Dr. Taraban. Just Orion is fine. So yes, in my 20s, I was an actor. That's more of a long story, but I transitioned into the psychology realm in my late 20s. And I opened up a small private practice after I got licensed that specialized in men's mental health. I live in the Bay Area in California, and I think at the time I was one of only 2 practitioners, not just psychologists, just like therapists in general in the Bay Area, which has between 2.5 and 3 million people who specialized in men's mental health. 2 in a metropolitan area of over 2.5 million. So within a few months, I had a very full client roster with a wait list. And as I worked with these guys month after month, year after year, I saw that they were improving their situation, and which is great to see. The problem was that in the private practice model, the best I can do is potentially help 20 to 30 people a year, which is no small thing. If you can really help 20 to 30 other human beings significantly improve their lives. But I figured that there was nothing all that unique or unusual about the 30 guys that I was working with, and that if it worked for 30 guys, it might work for 30 million. So I started to record episodes during the shutdowns on the techniques and the takes and the reframes and the perspectives that seemed to be moving the needle for both myself and the men that I was working with. And eventually that began to take off over time.
Okay. Very cool. Everyone make sure to check out his YouTube channel. We're happy to have you.
Thanks.
Moff, hello. Thanks for joining as well. Tell us about you.
Pleasure. Yeah. I've been in the men's self-improvement space probably for the last 5 years or so. I've built a number of communities where I help men in the dating sphere, fitness, taking ownership, leadership, getting back to all of the things that men used to do that move society forward, and trying to reassert themselves as leaders of their household, of society, et cetera. So when I got the message that Dr. Orion was going to be on, I said, absolutely, hell yes. We've shared the stage before. We've met a few times. He's a good guy, and I'm really looking forward to being a part of this.
Who would you both say is like the equivalent, maybe not equivalent, not in size or anything like that, but for the women's side, like the women's improvement? If you were to pick somebody, what do you think?
How about schools, academia, society at large?
The school system?
In terms of influence, in terms of effectiveness, what do we mean exactly?
Yeah, when we're putting the panel together, it seems like the men's self-help is getting way more attention than like the women's side. Would you guys agree with that?
No, I don't think that that's true.
Not necessarily.
We know from the evidence that women are disproportionate consumers of self-help literature and therapy. The reason why there's no like woman's sphere in the way that there's a man's sphere is that all of these supports and encouragements are baked into society, that they're increasingly invisible to most of us. Whereas the things that used to support and encourage men that were baked in have been systematically undermined over the last 50 to 70 years. And so now there is a dedicated effort to bring some of that back, to Moff's point.
Okay, makes sense. Oh yeah. Tell us for coming.
Hi everyone. I'm here to talk about the dating stuff. I guess a little bit about me is I spent a decade on Wall Street. Didn't really work with a woman, mostly with men. And I lived in New York City and still do And somehow I find myself having opinions on every single dating topic. I guess like I have 4 sisters, and I've just seen marriages, divorces, hearing stuff on the street in New York, my own experience, and yeah, here I am.
Cool. Thank you, Olia. And Lindsay, please introduce yourself for us. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here. Lindsay Ditzberry. I have experienced dating firsthand in New York City and Miami for many years. I'm currently residing in Miami. But yeah, I've been in a different kind of world modeling in New York City and working in hospitality for many years. And then the past 5.5 years I've spent in tech sales. So different kind of careers and different experiences with that, and definitely different dating scenes between New York and Miami. So excited to dive into these questions and topics.
So ladies, do you, Lindsay and Olia, good to see you again. Do you think New York is typical of dating scenes, or the people that like are in the quote unquote dating pool? Would you consider New York typical? Because I actually scooped up a New Yorker, brought her out of New York, and I just have to say, the stories I've heard, it doesn't line up to me with like most other places.
I would say that it looks very similar as the rest of the United States. It just has 10 more years. So like in the rest of the US, you are, when you're 30, I feel like in New York City, that's like 40 or 39. So you have this illusion of extra time and you live this elongated like youth. And, everything else that comes with that is the difference in New York versus the rest of the US. That's just how I've been kind of witnessing it. I'm curious what Lindsay has to say.
Yeah, I mean, I see it as it's definitely a melting pot of the world in New York City, right? So you're getting people from every place. But the conversations that I have with my friends that are, spread out all over the US, it seems to be the same common theme of struggles, let's call it, with the dating world today.
I also lived in New York for about 11 years, and I lived there from 2000 to 2011. So before dating apps really start to take off. And Manhattan was Tinder before Tinder existed. Like that's always been the case. Like you have the most ambitious, brightest, most beautiful people come from all over the world to New York. If you have something to prove and you have a dream, you end up in New York at some point. And all of these highly ambitious, accomplished, competitive people are occupying like 10 square miles of space. And the dating scene has always been extremely competitive. Like, again, before the apps, we'd like to blame the apps, but you could be at a bar in the Lower East Side back in the day, and a girl would be like, hey, I like what you have, but I wish you were 2 inches taller. And there's probably the same version of you like 2 blocks away. So it's extremely difficult to find long-term relationships because the optionality is seemingly infinite. And that's what has been expanded beyond these really densely metropolitan areas with the dating apps, is the illusion of infinite options, which paralyzes choice and makes the opportunity cost of foreclosure too intense.
I hear that a lot, actually, and I've been saying this for the last like 12 years I've been living in New York. It's true, but also in my own life, that hasn't been true. Like I have never met a guy in New York and was like, you know what? I can find like a 20% better version of you in the next 2 months. And so I'm going to drop you. Like, and I don't feel that the same thing has happened to me. So sometimes I wonder like how much of people's experience is like, it is a common theme I hear from other people that I just have frankly not had experience with that.
I think that happens more unconsciously than consciously. I think some people are thinking, well, this guy doesn't make as much, or she could be a little bit more attractive. But the vast majority of people, they vote with their feet. And we see that people aren't getting married. They're not having kids. They're not entering into long-term relationships in blue cities. And so they might not be consciously thinking that, but there's something that's preventing them from that's holding them back.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. Is it a quantity over quality problem though? Like I feel like New York takes men out of a lot of the lifestyle choice, right? Like I'll never forget the first time like I went to New York, like just you spend all your time doing groceries. There almost is no like manly work. And like the corporate ambition stuff we're right, like we're talking about, I feel like that corporate culture also in a lot of ways neuters men from being men. And so like I'm curious if you feel that there's an over quantity of good men in New York, or if it's the other way around. You have a lot of like we'll call them metrosexuals who are like, a little bit more effeminate, a little bit more into their feelings, afraid of like tripping up HR and that kind of deal. It's always been my hypothesis.
I guess, look, in my own personal experience, sometimes you're with this guy and he seems feminine maybe to some people, but I've also seen people like become very aggressive with a cab driver and he's like, I worked for 16 hours and that aggression has to go somewhere. So I would say not. I guess like in this debate, I'm already seeing that I'm going to take a more positive side of dating in New York, just because I haven't seen maybe that much bad stuff. It hasn't happened to me. I've found like I've had great relationships here, and the men I've dated have been manly and took charge and knew how to make decisions and smart, ambitious, and cultured.
So
am I lucky or what?
Orion, what would you say?
I would say that Olya seems to be fairly attractive and still fairly young. And I also don't necessarily want to pry into her personal life, but I wonder if she's ended up where she wants to be. Like she's dated lots of wonderful men. And if she wants to just have experiences for 6 months and 2 years, it's none of my business. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I guess, it's fine. We're here, so I'll just be honest, and it's more interesting. I've had great men. I think that maybe I wasn't ready for the serious thing when that was presented to me in life, and I feel like I've turned the corner now, and I'm in my dating world. I'm kind of beginning to date again and being open to people. And so, the next person that I meet that meets characteristics similar probably to my father, which I hold in very high esteem, I am very open to, being more serious. I've seen also like here's like a story. I've been to a club where it was just me and like 10 models, and in New York City, if you don't have interesting stuff to say, it can be brutal because, like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I get more attention than I should. I'm not that I'm cute. I'm not that attractive. Maybe it was just working on Wall Street and being comfortable with men. I don't know. You guys should.
Orion, why are you smiling?
I was looking at Moff, and I think I have some ideas of what might be going through his head, but I don't want to speak for him. I hear this story a lot. So I do consultations with folks all over the world now, mostly men, but not exclusively. I talk to a lot of women. Men come to me with a whole host of problems. Maybe they're not finding the women that they want to date. Maybe they're having trouble with their wife. Maybe they want career advice, sometimes even philosophical or even spiritual counsel. Women who hire me always want to know how to get a husband. And sometimes I think women have a lot of incorrect beliefs about men, and they often don't make the same effort to figure men out that men, for better or for worse, expend to figure women out. And one of these illusions that women tend to operate under is that men are easy until they want to get married. Like, men are easy for sex. And a woman who has had casual, short-term relationships can basically have the run of the farm. as it were. But that's very different from securing a lifetime or a long-term commitment from a man that she's actually attracted to. The same man will give her sexual access to him, but might withhold commitment access. And women who finally get to the point where they're ready, when I always examine their relationship history, they've met men who were ready before them, who were ready to wife them up and take them out, but they weren't. And I think they have these experiences and they think, I have so much abundance. This is just me. This is easy. But with each passing year, it becomes more and more difficult. With each former relationship, it becomes less attractive for the next man. That's just the way that men perceive and men experience things. And women can, of course, understand that and either become offended or use that to their advantage. But in general, people get married. The game of marriage in particular, long-term commitment, is like a game of musical chairs. You remember everyone's like walking around the chairs while the music plays and the music stops, and then someone tries to grab the first available chair and sit down. And anyone who can't find a chair is removed from the game. Basically, people get married when they're ready to stop dating. That's when the music stops. When they're ready, they don't want to go out to the club. They want to find someone that they can just sit at home in their PJs with and watch Netflix. They don't need the sensory stimulation. They want something else. Like their priorities change, their interests change, and they say, okay, I'm ready to sit down. That's when people get married, and they don't choose their best option. They choose a good enough option, which is like what's within arm's reach when the music stops. Now, the issue is the music stops for people at different times. Some people, the music stops at 22. Other people, the music stops at 52. But until that happens, they're going to keep walking around. They're just going to keep going around and going around. Or they go around for too long and they can't grab a chair, and they're kind of eliminated from the standings. That's why people get married. And you've decided, it sounds like, that now you're ready. But you probably aren't as the same optionality that you might have enjoyed 10 years ago, it may not be present for you today. That's just kind of what happens.
I mean, I hear that a lot. I'm 36. I hear that a lot. It's actually not true. I was going to just add to, like, just for clarity for our listeners and everybody here, a bit about me so you kind of know where I'm coming from. I don't really date men who, maybe part of the reason why I've had these experiences is because I don't really entertain men who aren't serious, in a sense, like they don't know who they are, they're confused, and maybe that's why I've had good relationships with men and continue to do, like, I'm kind of seeing somebody now, and we're talking about like he's just deciding about serious things, whether we're compatible and this and that. And it's really similar to a conversation I had when I was 25, and I was having those conversations. I had a lot of family stuff that happened that took me out of the dating world for like 6 years. It wasn't really my choice. And you can say, like, you're not married, so here's like,
that's not a problem for me. I'm not married, but I don't want to be married. The question is, like, do you have what you want? And it's certainly not a gift to be married if you don't want to be, and it's certainly not a problem to be single if that's what you want.
Wait,
I'm not trying to judge you on that count.
Orion, you are not married by choice. You do not want to be married by choice.
Oh yeah, certainly not in a legal sense. I mean, I don't see really what advantage I gain from signing that contract. It seems like a lot of risk and next to no reward.
Okay, marriage, pro-marriage, no marriage. Dustin's married. Oya's not. Lindsay's not. I'm not. Mosh, are you married?
I'm not, but I would not. In the same way as Dr. Taraban, I wouldn't enter into a government contract or anything under those circumstances. But yeah, as far as like legal marriage or marriage on paper, yeah, I wouldn't do that.
I'm going to put you in the hot seat, Orion. Can you please give us a pitch for why men should not get married?
Well, I think that most women are going to marry men who can improve their quality of life. That's a rational decision. Most women don't dream of taking care of a man. So generally, the men that women choose to enter into marriage with tend to have more status, resources, and experience, etc. Which means in the separation, in the event of a divorce, which is the most likely outcome of a marriage, the most likely outcome, that man will have to divest himself of a great deal of those assets and resources, and potentially not be able to see his children, et cetera, et cetera. I think that there's nothing that a man gains by signing that contract that he can't have in a committed relationship between two consenting adults that have nothing to do with the federal government.
Dustin, do you want to take the other side of that? Thank you very much, Orion.
Sure.
Not really. I mean, to me, I'm anti-government. So having the government come give you the like, oh, you're official.
I totally forgot. Yeah,
Yeah.
Dustin
Right.
lives his own sort of economy. So,
But listen, commitment and monogamy, right? Like that's a whole different story. And I think getting into a long-term committed relationship, raising a family, is by far the most rewarding thing most humans will ever accomplish.
so Dr. Orion, would you say that you would be pro family without getting married? So say somebody's like, I'd like to have kids. You're okay with that?
Sure. I mean, it's happening anyway. Like in certain demographics, most children are born to unmarried parents in some demographics today in 2026. Like it's already happening. What I'm suggesting is that we do so more intentionally and responsibly. Like one of the arguments I make is one of the reasons why the divorce rate is gotten so high with marriage is that we've wanted it to be too many things. And we've completed all of these ideas into a single construct. Like just off the top of my head, there's the legal contract, there's a wedding, there's cohabitation, there's sexual exclusivity, there's the commitment of emotional investment, there's children. Like we think that marriage has to come with all of those things. And that creates a great deal of stress and pressure. And just like any chain is only as strong as its weakest link, that tends to lead to the dissolution of the relationship. And that's a very one-size-fits-all relationship. For better or for worse, gays have kind of figured this out. The queer community has done this because there has been no models for what gay or queer relationships look like. So they have to explicitly negotiate, like, who do we tell? Is it open? Is it closed? Do we involve your family? Like, are they okay with this? Like, they have these explicit conversations about all these different aspects of the relationship. And ideally, it doesn't always happen, but ideally, that relationship then becomes custom tailored to the individuals involved. Versus the straight thing is I just take the whole thing. It's like going to Costco. It's like, we're just going to do the entire bundle. And I think that one of the opportunities of the relationship crisis we're currently experiencing is that we can unbundle some of those things and be more intentional about which things we want to keep and which things don't quite fit with us, the actual two people involved in the relationship. And I think one of the futures we're going to see with respect to alt relationships or alt marriages is like platonic co-parenting. I think that's going to become more and more common. People want to be parents, but sometimes they can't find someone that they love or that they're sexually attracted to that they want to do this with, or the resources aren't right, or they don't want to get married, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we're going to see more of that as people are going to decide that we're going to make a baby and be co-parents, but we're not going to get married. We're not going to live together, and we're going to take care of this kid.
You know, the understanding that I have with marriage, and I have a lot of, my family has a lot of unique, like my cousin doesn't believe in marriage. And then you have like my families were married, my parents were married and divorced, etc. So I've seen it. I've kind of seen it all. I think that, Orion, if you believe that people are just getting married because of musical chairs anyway, that's probably the average. But is there any cases where that's not the case, that you've seen working with all of these men or some women that actually got married because they really wanted to be together and they wanted to build together and have a family, and the marriage worked out more like a shackle where they're less likely to just do things based on emotional tendencies and say, I want a divorce, I'm leaving? It's like, you got to think about it a little bit because there's some paperwork involved.
I was with you until that last part, because it's like, you know, who am I that I'm going to just back out of my commitments and responsibilities when I no longer feel like it? Like if I The thing about contracts is that you need contracts with people you don't trust. That's what actually enables us to do business. It takes so long to learn to trust somebody. I want to make a product. I need you to build it. I'm going to ship it. I can't trust you because I can't have enough time to understanding who you are and whether you're going to screw me over or not. So I don't have to trust you. I need you to sign this contract. And I trust that there's an overarching authority that will enforce it. So contracts exist because we don't trust each other. Where trust and character exists, you don't need contracts. Like if I need to be held back because at the force of the sword by the government, more or less, then what does that say about my willingness to be there? What does that say about my character or my integrity? I don't think it says anything very positive. Moff,
I wanted
want
to
say something?
Yeah, I wanted to throw my hat in the ring a little bit on this. So when I've talked to women generally only going to get married or want to get married for three things, or a combination of all three. One, they want to have a party, right? I say they want to get married. They don't necessarily want to be married. I can't wait to have this amazing thing where it's all about me and I get to wear this great, amazing dress. And oh my God, everybody's chanting my name and everybody loves me. That's number one. They get to have a big party. Two, it is a status symbol, or it is a status or a hierarchical badge of honor to be a married woman. And women care about their status in terms of social hierarchy. So a married woman is generally perceived as being higher status in the social hierarchy than an unmarried or a single woman. And for three, it's an insurance policy. So just like Dr. Orion, what Taraban was saying, it's, well, I want to make sure that if we have issues, that my guy is not going to just tuck tail and run. And if he doesn't want to be with me anymore, he decides that this is no longer something he wants to be a part of, he can't just get out of it so easily. Isn't that kind of an issue? Wouldn't you rather have somebody that chooses to stay with you and doesn't have to, versus someone that stays with you because the government or a contract they went into essentially under duress is compelling them to? So I don't ever really hear an argument for marriage by women other than one of those three things.
I feel like I'm hearing people talk. I feel like, are you all of your parents divorced? Like, what are you guys talking about? I'm sitting here and I'm just like, are these people depressed? Like, what are these people doing? Why are they thinking like this? Like, I like women, like I can make, like, I was.
Why do you want to be married, Olivia? Why do you want to be married?
Because I believe, to be honest, I believe in love more now at 36 than I did at 26.
What does love have to do with marriage?
So the way
can the two exist separately? Sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you up. Can the two exist separately here? Okay, so what's the problem?
I think that if somebody's like weirded out by signing papers of marriage, then they probably don't want to marry that person.
Or they have a problem with the agreement.
Yeah, right.
If you have a problem with an agreement, you probably don't want to marry that person because you think that, like, okay, so just a background. My parents were in love, married for love, had 6 children. My mom, my dad sometimes we didn't have money. My mom was like, okay, we're just gonna, we're gonna have a tough period. So I saw a lot of like give and take, and I don't even did they have fights and did somebody mention divorce? Maybe, but I guess in like when your parents like truly love each other, I don't think.
Oh yeah, here's what's happening right now. Like really quickly, and I think this is something that I always like to drive home because I do a show similar like this. When men generally talk about dating and relationships and the relationship sphere, we're talking about other people. We're talking about out there, what we're seeing by the hundreds, if not thousands of men that we've worked with, or the people that we see. Women tend to look at these things only from their personal lens and their personal experience. So I'm not saying you're wrong for what you're saying, but you are looking at this through an extremely narrow view of your family only, not all these other folks that are out there. So like that's, and what we're talking about is, let's do a quick thought experiment. If I said, hey, you've got to sign this contract. Whereas if I just feel bored enough, feel like I don't want to do this anymore, feel like one day I just decide like, hey, I don't really feel like playing house with you anymore. You've got to give me half of your stuff and possibly lose access to the kids just because I feel like it. Is that something, if knowing that that is the stakes or the terms of the agreement, would you enter into that agreement and you have no recourse? Because that's what men are being faced with every day when it comes to marriage.
Look, I see the point about me talking about my own experience. I'm kind of doing that just to like give our listeners a different side of view,
Sure.
and being
I'm
a
not
side
knocking
of
you for
you.
that.
I've read enough books and like heard enough stuff about whatever you guys are saying. Like, yeah, it's true, but I'm just here to be like that other voice. The thing about, so I come from Eastern Europe, where like if you get divorced, you just give the wife like the house and the car, whatever, and she kind of stays with, because she's doing more of the kids stuff. And men, like, it's kind of in our culture, weak men who are worried about like losing their Toyota Corolla. It's a little like, it's kind of gay a little. I don't like.
Okay, can I jump in here? So
Yes.
I think that unfortunately you might be guilty of kind of a logical fallacy or an overgeneralization. When men balk at the agreement and you say that they don't want to get married, I'd like to make an analogy. So in general, if it works in business, it works in relationships because it's the same underlying premise. It's the exchange of value. So if I were to offer you a job, but I was only going to pay you $10,000 a year, and I wasn't going to give you any kind of time off, and I was going to own all the products that you created under my name, and you refused to sign that agreement, that would be comparable to me saying, I guess she just doesn't want a job. I guess she just doesn't want to work. Maybe the agreement is shitty. Maybe the terms need to change. Now, to your point about the weak men, there's something to that point. You have a grain of truth here, which is why marriage is increasingly either a poor man's game because he has nothing to lose. You can't get blood from a stone. And that's why you see the lower economic status getting married and having a bunch of kids, or it's a rich man status symbol because he can afford to get divorced and still come out okay. It's the folks in the middle. You knock the Toyota Corolla, but for the average person who's just like getting by and has like 2 weeks of savings, if he gets fired, taking away his Corolla is a huge hit. Like maybe he can't get to work. So it's like in the middle, we're working with smaller margins. You can't take anything from the poor people, and the rich people are going to be okay. That's why, and we have this widening the middle class is disappearing. And so that's why marriage rates are going down. It's an economic argument. Yeah,
I feel like language like that is what makes men fear losing, half of their net worth at 35. I'm 36. If I lost half of my net worth, and if I couldn't gain it back, that is a statement about my ability. That's not a statement about, just like an unfortunate life situation. So I think that kind of language makes
a little too
men
harsh. Oh yeah. It's in the same way that like anybody could start over, right? But no one's going to go back to get a PhD at 60. It just takes too long. So the 10 years that you have in your 20s is different from your 10 years in your 40s.
But men
and the dating game is very, very different.
Men are not giving birth to babies and staying at home. They're building their
Women aren't giving birth to babies either. Like that's the other thing is they're not.
Right.
The population collapse is coming.
I'm okay to sign an agreement
rate.
And lose half of my net worth. Like I've dated men where I've had more money. Like I specifically went to work on Wall Street because I was like, I come from a poor family. I have no money. I have to have my own money to be able to dictate rules in the world, if I'm doing that and some guy is scared about his Toyota Corolla, like, why should I feel bad for him?
Well, you're not dating the guy that drives a Corolla anyway. Let's just be honest. Like that guy's already so far out of your pay grade anyway. Like you're not dating a dude that if he lost his Corolla tomorrow, he'd be going insane. You're not dating that kind of guy, or that's not the guy you want to go after.
And she's not dating the stocking manager at Walmart.
Correct. So it's kind of a non-issue.
But also, I guess I grew up with different kind of narratives about what happens, like what happens if there's a divorce. My dad's kind of in Eastern Europe. If you get divorced, you give the wife and you're like, okay, like you cannot be like upset at me. You have the children, take care of them. Like I will be, because they typically live with the mom everywhere. So I think I just grew up with different rules for what masculinity or what taking charge or, being a provider means.
I have a completely different perspective on all of this.
Let's hear
That
from
I'd love to
Lindsay.
share.
I want to hear from Lindsay.
Yeah, so I think it's all about how you view marriage, right? Like I view marriage as not a contract. I view it as a commitment in front of God. And so I think if you're looking at it from a spiritual perspective, then that's a whole completely different view. And it's like being able to serve your creator together and come together. And I think there's yeah, it's it's just an interesting thought, right? That like, men obviously have one opinion about it, women have another. I think women complain about men not stepping up to the plate and making enough money. I think that there's now in society, women are so empowered that we have the ability to do things on our own, right? We can make a ton of money. We could even have a baby on, by ourselves, like getting IVF, right? So it's like, why would we need a man? But then you look at a partnership and the reason why marriage exists, it's not about you at the end of the day, right? It's about like serving others. That's kind of how I view it. Just kind of different, but
Then your marriage is only as strong as your religious convictions. I mean, religious people get divorced literally all the time. You're still you're still making a bet that someone does not have a change of heart that is strong enough to override whatever conviction they have. And women are incredibly fickle when it comes to their emotions and their decision making. But I think you brought up a good point, Lindsay, as far as women can make their own money and women can do that. I mean, again, like women raising kids by themselves is a disaster. Single motherhood is crippling kids for the future. It's a terrible thing that is not working. And we know that if we look at any meaningful statistics across the board when it comes to runaways, suicide rates, incarceration rates. But I think the bigger issue at play here, or what I think is funny and ironic, I should say, is that women sort of fell for the psyop of feminism that said, you don't need a man, you're better than men. And then they turn around and point the finger at men and say, it's your fault that you don't make enough money and you're not strong enough. And what happened to men stepping up? So it's like you got duped, but it's still the men's fault, which I always find ironic and funny. I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm just kind of saying that's a common sentiment that a lot of men are saying, or a lot of women are saying, where it's, well, men aren't making enough money anymore. Like we make our own money. So what good are men for? Or what are men good for? And on top of that, it's like, without men, you wouldn't be able to make the money you make. Without men stepping aside or allowing women to have the freedoms that they have and have the jobs that they can have and go work on Wall Street, you wouldn't be able to, because men have the monopoly on force. So I think this is something that often gets swept under the rug, where the people that continue to prop up society and the people that continue to keep our infrastructure running and all of these freedoms that we think are sort of, we just wake up and are handed to us, are only given to us by men. And but in the same breath, we demonize these men for not making enough money, and we don't want to date them as women. I just find that ironic.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting perspective. I mean, I think men and women bring different things to the table, right? Like
Sure.
women literally bring life into this world, but you need both to create life.
Yeah, you need a
So
man
it's
as well.
kind of like I hear you on the women always complaining about men kind of thing, but I think it's both people's issues, right? It's like women allow certain types of behavior, and whatever you allow is what will continue, right? So like if women aren't accepting this type of behavior from men, that is like, it's it's just interesting to think about.
I also feel like as soon as somebody opens their mouth and they're like, so and so, and men or women or New York City or da da da, it sounds to me like victimhood and just being professional victims, basically. And I think, like, I guess this is why I keep on talking about myself, is like in my life, I view men as very valuable and smart, and I've worked with really, really smart men, and they've helped me with my career. And my dad is like, my biggest hero in life. And I've had very kind experiences in life as a result. You know, a lot of this is probably how we project ourselves onto the world, and then what we get out of the world as a result.
I'll say this really quick, just to clarify really quick, Doctor. I just kind of point things out the way they are. Like, I'm the first, I mean, you see the sign behind me, it literally says do the work. Like, that's all you can do. So the game is the game. You can either play or not play, but you can't change it. You can't wish it were different. I have no ill or irk towards what it should be or shouldn't be. I only care about what it is. So I understand that a lot of this comes off or maybe come off as a complaint, but it's really not. It's just kind of talking about the realities of the world that we live in and recognizing those, and then giving men the tools to navigate that. Because again, I think men and women are better together than they are apart. I think we're irrevocably attached to one another. And the further we get away from our natural male and female, or our masculine and feminine proclivities, the worse off we are as a group, as a society.
I would say you have a point, Olya, in that people don't marry and date statistics. They only marry and date specific individuals. So the individual can differ radically from population level statistics, but the population level statistics should inform your behavior. Unfortunately, a lot of young people, especially young men, are hearing these statistics and using it as justification for giving up too soon. A lot of young men experience a great deal of difficulty in the sexual marketplace. Like 1 in 3 men under 30 have not had sex in the last year, which means they're functionally invisible to women. Young men have it very difficult. They're useless to other men because they have no skills or network. And they're pretty unattractive to women because they don't have resources, status, emotional maturity.
I actually find on this topic, I find that very sad, and I hear it a lot.
It is sad.
Just like a little story. This guy, younger guy, who came up to me on, at a bodega in New York and just asked me out, was like, I really like you, da da da. I didn't like this guy as much, but I was like, wow, you have a lot of courage to just come up and be like, I like you, can I have your phone number? I would like to take you out. I was like, yes, I will go with you. Like, I will reward this behavior. And for all the young men out there who are listening to this debate, I want to say, like, keep it up, and you're going to find women who are going to value that. And
Well, I'm sorry, Olya, but I know you feel you did a good deed. You did your mitzvah that time, but you actually maybe caused more harm than good, because you said you weren't that interested in the guy and you're just humoring him, which means you're getting his hopes up and kicking the can down the road.
No. I think women, so for me, I will find somebody can grow on me. Like, I'll find them initially like interesting enough. And if I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be the guy I marry, I'll give him a chance to get to know them. And that's what I did. Like, we actually ended up dating. I did like him. So, and what I liked was more how he behaved. What happened? He told me right away. He said he has issues with drinking. And I just was like, I like you, man, but that's something that's really hard for me to like accept. And so that was the problem in the end.
I think that's fair. And I don't mean to nitpick, and I promise, Doc, I'll let you go after this too. But the reason I winced at the end of that statement is because this is extremely common advice that a lot of women like to give out. Hey, man, just keep trying. There's somebody out there for you. And it's awful, because we try to give advice to men that's applicable, that they can use, that is based on research, that's based on Evo Psych and biology and all of these things that we've seen work.
Like what advice?
Like, get in great shape, be as attractive physically as humanly possible, learn how to be a leader, learn how to be assertive, make more money so you have the ability to have resources. Like, all of these things that we can say and list out. I can give a man a checklist of things that he should do, among a million other things, but none of them involve just be yourself and the right girl will come along and like you. Because those are the men that are wandering in the streets that aren't changing anything about themselves, because all they hear is, you're perfect just the way you are. Somebody out there will like you. That's really good advice for women, because
I didn't do that.
I said, go ahead.
Yeah, I said I rewarded his courage.
At the
and
end, you
being
said there
brave.
about men. You said men who are listening to this, there's somebody out there for you. Just keep trying. That's not right. There's men. We really can't do anything with that advice.
Listen,
That's just
I
saying,
also
like, just be yourself.
dropped a guy who was doing Ozempic. Like, I'm saying that if you're a guy who is trying in life, not just with a girl in the street, if you're trying in life, somebody is going to reward that. I mean it more broadly. I don't mean it like go ask 20,000 girls
But
in Manhattan.
that doesn't
somebody will
help.
say yes.
But that's the problem, because being very broad and not being specific and saying what you actually mean, what does trying mean? What does that actually mean? What are we actually talking about? It's very vague and broad, and men are very much problem solvers. Like, they want to hear, give me the exact steps that I need to do, and I will do those steps. And a lot of women, just because they don't know what they find arousing or attractive, it's just be yourself, because women generally are feelers. They're basically, this guy triggered my emotions. I don't know why. So it's very difficult for them to give advice to men to try and replicate that.
I think what Olia is trying to say, and tell me if I'm wrong, Olia, because I do feel the same, is that when men go for things, that's hot. Like, if you do something and just try it, and that's like, women love that. And I think that's what that's what Olia is trying to say. Not that, oh, like, you'll get a pity date for that. It's like, oh no, like, I see you now, right? You're someone who is resilient. You're like not afraid. You're showing a lot of character traits that we like.
Yeah, right? No, exactly. I think that, you know, we can have a larger conversation about what men need to do to, you know, kind of stand out. But I was specifically pointing out to persistence. And this guy just knows what he's like, I like you. I want to talk to you. Like, give me a chance. And
yeah, again, I wasn't knocking that at all. I wasn't talking about that guy. I was talking about what you said at the end. So, I mean, we can move on though.
I want to just kind of bring it back around, because I realized I didn't actually answer Dana's question about, do I see these good relationships clinically or personally? And to Olia's point about, statistics versus individuals. So I have seen it, but it's very rare. So the framework I work within is basically this. Everybody wants to be a millionaire. Like, nobody is going to say no to $1 million. Everybody understands that that's something that most people are going to strive towards. According to the statistics, 1.5% of the adult population of the world is a millionaire, has a net worth of over $1 million. 1.5%. Sounds very small, but if you actually divide those numbers, that's 1 in 65 people. That's actually not that bad, but that means 64 people are less than that. Now, how does that work? So if everybody wants to be a millionaire, did those 64 people just get unlucky? Were they just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or were there some people who, besides they got lucky, understood it takes a shit ton of work to become a millionaire, and how they have to maybe uproot their entire lives, and they can't follow their hearts. They have to go into a lucrative career, and they have to learn skills, and they have to delay gratification. And that doesn't always work, but that's going to significantly increases their chance that they're going to be in that 1.5%. I would say that having a loving, stable, long-term relationship with an attractive, supportive woman is the male relationship equivalent of being a millionaire. And I think that dream is about as rare. When I look around, I think about 1 in 65 guys have that. Now, why is that? Because for some reason, a lot of us understand it's going to take a lot of work to become a millionaire. And it's, I'm just not really willing to do that work, or I don't want to move to a city where the opportunity is, or I don't want to learn a new skill that might be more lucrative. I get it. But people seem to think that we should be able to have these types of relationships. They should be more common than they are. But it could be that only 1.5% of people get these kinds of relationships, in the sense that at least one of the people involved isn't settling, that both people actually end up with the kind of relationship they want with the person they want to have it with. Maybe only 1 in 65 people get that. Now, did they just get lucky? Or did they learn how to have relationships? Did they become more attractive? Did they move to a place where they're going to be more likely to meet that kind of person? Did they change their lifestyle and the way they're presenting? Did they learn communication, seduction skills? et cetera, et cetera. Like, if you aren't willing to do the work to become a millionaire, how can you reasonably expect to get there? And if you're not, we don't like to think it should take work. It's like we should just have our meet cute. Like, if it's meant to happen, it should happen. Or to Olia's, I guess, point that Moff was talking about, just keep trying. And that's you wouldn't give that advice to somebody who wanted to become a millionaire. Sometimes you have to abandon a bad strategy. That product is never going to make money. They have to say that on like Shark Tank to people every day. This is a terrible idea. I can't invest in it. The sooner you divest yourself of this idea, the better for everybody involved.
You know, I just had this thought. I realized I have never in my life thought that some guy was going to love me just the way that I am. Like, woke up, you know, never studied anything, never worked out, never like went for my dreams, never was, you know, never working, like figuring out what my hobbies are. It had never occurred to me that some guy is going to be like, I just love this blob. You know,
Maybe that's why you've said you've had pretty good relationships with men. Is that you've put in effort, and you put in effort around things that men actually care about, like your physical attractiveness, as opposed to like your master's degree that men don't care about.
I guess like I'm hearing you and I'm like, oh my gosh, what, like these people didn't have, who was raising them if they're thinking that like just by appearing in the world, some 10 out of 10 girl is going to be with you. Like, I don't think that's some...
Well, it works the other way around, Olia. In fact, the other way around is more common. In fact, the Chinese government has outlawed certain dramas because it's giving the Chinese women a delusional perspective of the sexual marketplace, and they're dealing with population collapse in that country. And that drama is just like K-dramas, it's just like Twilight, it's just like 50 Shades of Grey, which is namely there's a kind of average woman who suddenly becomes the intense obsessive love interest of like a powerful, mysterious billionaire werewolf.
Pretty woman.
And she does nothing. And in fact, just trying to beat him off, but he just can't help himself because she's just like the most amazing, and he can't wait to give her everything she's ever wanted. That's what people think. And more women are guilty of that than men, thinking that, man, I should just be able to go out and a woman will be thrilled to talk to me and give me sex and relationships. It's really the other way around. And women are the gatekeepers of sex. And in any culture where sex precedes commitment, if you can't get through the sex barrier, we don't have relationships. We don't have marriages. People like to think, well, Ryan, what's the big deal about sex and casual sex? Well, until we go back to sex being on the side of marriage or arranged marriages, which isn't going to happen anytime soon, if we want marriages and relationships, we have to fuck. We have to have sex, which means we have to get through women's gatekeeping. And women have said that 80% of men are unattractive. So only 20% get into, that's not even marriage. That's just get into like a relationship that could last for 6 months, could last for 6 years, who knows? So to get to marriage and kids is just a whole nother thing. We're trickling.
I guess to turn that around, I'm just thinking like, do women reject good sex? Like, do women actually reject like possibility?
You have to get there to reject it. That's the problem. How do you know if it's good or not? You have to have it.
Well, if you're getting rejected because you just, you know, like you're not interesting, you're not smart, like you're fat, you know, that's an indication that you should work on those things, right? But if you have sex with a girl, then you know, I kind of wonder this sometimes. Like, do women really, like, once they know, do women reject good sex? Like, that's an interesting question.
I think if you're really good at sex, it's one of the cheat codes as a man. Like, if you actually are very well endowed, you understand physical seduction, you know how to get a woman off, that's kind of how women bond. Like, one of the best ways to keep her emotionally loyal, regardless of any kind of contract or explicit agreement you have, is to fuck her very, very well, better than any other man.
So then the question is, like, if she stopped having sex with you,
why would she do that?
Then, yeah, like, exactly. Why would she do that?
And so why do I need to marry her? She's like addicted. She's addicted at that point. Okay. Just made that one up. It's a groaner, but
I mean, those are two different things.
Well, they are two very, very different things, but like, you have to understand that that's one way to secure a woman's emotional investment and commitment.
No. It's one way to secure sex. That's it.
No. Women can't compartmentalize that nearly as well as men can. And men can't do it indefinitely either. So we have to be real about that. But women can't just say, this is just good sex that I have over and over and over and over and over again and not develop feelings for the man. I don't think that's possible. That's against biology.
Is polygamy coming soon then?
Well, polygamy.
Polygyny.
Is that the gender neutral term, Moff? I forget.
It would be man with multiple wives. That's my co-host TC, by the way. So we're even doing a show after this where we're going to talk about everything, but we talk about this stuff. So I don't want to blow up too much of his spot, but he is really on that polygyny train and he's doing it. He's got multiple women that he's going to have multiple kids with. He's got a plan. He's done the finances. He's done everything. So I don't want to put words in his mouth, but essentially what we're going to be seeing is women are going to have no choice. Women are already in sort of secret polygynous relationships with high value men anyway. Mm-hmm. Women that are dating or in the dating pool, especially and I lived in New York City for 7 years. I just didn't want to say anything. But these women that are in these situationships or that can't lock down these guys that they want are unknowingly or blissfully ignorant to, or maybe willfully ignorant to the fact that they're already sharing these top shelf men with a bunch of other women. So the idea is just to say, hey, listen, ladies, just embrace it. Just embrace that there's a guy out there that you really want to be with, and he will take care of you. He will put a roof over your head and children in your belly and food on your table. And then when he wants to step out and get a little bit of exercise with other women, all you got to do once or twice a week is just do this. All you just got to do is this. And you got to not ask him where he is, not check his location, and you'll live happily ever after. But women have a really, really hard time with this. So maybe this is where it's going to go. I think the other argument, and I don't know if I doubt we want to get political here, is that it's either submit to the strong men that want to return society to where it needs to go, where men are leading households and men are moving society forward in a good way and start getting that birth rate up where it belongs, or we're just going to keep importing 30 million other people from other third world countries where their birth rates are 3 or 4 times higher than ours. And then what happens in a generation or two where they are now the majority, they're going to vote for, you're going to have to do it anyway. So that's kind of the argument. We're kind of going down that road no matter what.
Okay, Olya, Lindsay, let's all shackle up. We'll get a high-value man. We'll all live together.
Sister wives.
Wives, yeah.
I find it interesting that polygamy is like entered the...
I literally cannot, like, maybe if they're doing this unknowingly, okay, like I hear your point. But like the other thing about men cheating as well is that they can, and women can too. But my dad he was a famous baseball player. He could have any woman he wanted. He loved the family life. So I do believe that there is maybe that's just very rare. Maybe they just want to prioritize that versus like sleeping around because that gives them purpose and like more oxytocin to focus on the family. Maybe that's rare, right? Maybe I grew up with this. Maybe I've become brainwashed because I assume like, what man wouldn't want that?
Well, I think you said it. You answered your own question. He could have any woman he wanted. And I think this is also why I think that once you have that kind of optionality, it becomes much less exciting to you. We don't like to talk about this, but a lot of attraction, a lot of romance, a lot of passion has to do with limitation, obstruction, scarcity, et cetera, et cetera. What was that, Moff?
It's forbidden. It's secretive, right?
That's part of it too.
Yeah.
So the reason why I think so many men have this fantasy of, I'd love to be where your father was and have any woman I wanted, is because they don't have any, or they're just getting crumbs, and so they're fantasizing about the buffet. But imagine if you like lived in the buffet, you probably wouldn't you'd learn not to stuff yourself every day. You learn control when you're surrounded by that kind of optionality, but it takes some time. And so it might be better for men to never get that optionality, or to give men enough optionality that they get used to it. And kind of in the sense, it's the argument for like introducing children to alcohol in Europe at a younger age. So they don't develop like binge drinking behaviors, that it's just sort of like they can do it responsibly as part of their culture.
Except Eastern Europeans.
Yeah, they drink a lot of vodka, don't they?
Early.
That's a really interesting argument. I haven't even thought about it like that. It's like if you look at the bell curve, it's what you're basically arguing, that once they have all the options, they're striving for something. They get up here, now they get whatever they want. Now it's not interesting anymore. They want to go find another hill to climb.
Here's another way to put it. To the vast majority of men, women are a mystery, a riddle. Now think about it. I could tell you guys a really tough riddle today, and you might spend the next 30 years trying to figure it out. But if one day you realize the answer to that riddle, you will never think about that riddle again. A big part of why that riddle was so ingrained inside of you is because you couldn't figure it out. And that like disturbs the male analytical mind that wants to figure shit out. But once you kind of get a handle on it, it's much less, it doesn't have a control over you that it used to. And it's also why Dan Blazarian or folks like him, I don't need to single him out, say, playing the field ain't the thing. What really is the thing is monogamy and starting a family. It's like, cool. I'd also like to get there after potentially sleeping with 20,000 women. You know what I'm saying? It's like when rich people say money isn't everything. They're right. But as a poor person, you're like, this fucker. You know what I'm saying? You kind of have to make enough money to realize that money isn't everything. It's the same thing here. You guys aren't wrong, but it's just lands flat on the intended audience.
So then with that in mind, projecting into the future, do either of you men that are still on the panel, Dustin had to drop out, by the way, he had another call at 7, but
I was interested in him. He seems a little cryptic and he has an interesting personality.
He's a poker player. He's been involved in a lot of crazy stuff.
Cool.
So we'd love to have you back on again because I'm really enjoying this conversation, and I will wrap this up. But I want to ask you two men. So if you're looking into the future, do you think it's possible? Is there a part of you that thinks that you would actually get to that point where you're like, you know what, I do want to lock this down? Kind of like I even saw Andrew Tate, I think, say like, yeah, you know what, maybe I will consider marriage. I was like, what? When did that happen?
Well, as I said, I don't think I'll ever really enter into the legal contract, but that's very different from having a committed relationship and a long-term relationship and investing seriously and permanently in somebody. And I don't have any problem with that at all. I just don't like the idea of these perverse incentives that we have legally put on top of the relationship.
Yeah, I second that wholeheartedly. I have the exact same opinion.
Because both of you are scared to give up your assets? Like, sorry, somehow I'm confused. But we're fighting about that. So that's interesting. What if you were with somebody who was wealthier than you?
That great. Like, I'd love to marry a billionaire heiress. Like, I will marry somebody just like a woman.
So would you sign?
I'll do it tomorrow.
Absolutely.
If I get half the stuff, if I can just
I'm not going to sign a prenup either. I'm going to insist that if you really loved me, you wouldn't have to sign.
Why do we even need one? If you love me,
I think the reason why you guys wouldn't sign is because look at you, your nature just came out. You're like, yeah, I would sign. So you would take somebody's money.
I want to get married. I'll get married for the same reason a woman would get married. I'd get married if it would significantly improve my life and my situation to do so. But generally, I'm going to significantly improve the woman's life. And so I have to be more cautious because I have more to lose. Now, when you say it's just money, you got to think about this, Olya. Like, you worked in Wall Street. I'm sure you've heard the term "fuck you money" before, right?
Every day.
Right.
Thought about it every day.
So you have to understand that money is freedom. Mm-hmm. Money is self-determination. If I take away some of your money, you're going to put up with bad situations longer. You're going to compromise on your values. You're going to be restricted in how you want to live your life. It's not just about a bank account number. It's actually an expression of what you can do in life. And I don't see any reason to have that shackled or hampered by the government any more than they already do. You know what I'm saying? It's like people get fucking money so that they don't have to put up with bad situations and they can live on their terms. That's really what we're talking about here, not assets.
I mean, the government is like a third party. I'm just wondering if this is really that you guys are worried that some woman's gonna take, you know, half of your stock market.
The woman
portfolio.
gets to take half of the assets because the government tells her she can, and they award it to her.
Okay, so it's the same thing.
So it's fear,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, no,
Fear.
it's see.
Is there an amount of money that you guys would like to make where you don't feel like this? Is there like a number, a fuck you number, where you wouldn't feel afraid for somebody taking, like, say you have 10 billion.
I don't
then
want the
5
government.
billion is
I
still a
don't
lot.
want the government involved in any of my personal relationships in any capacity whatsoever. They don't belong there. It's none of their business. They don't get to tell me how much of my money I get to keep, or how often I get to see my kids, or what I owe to a woman that has decided she no longer wants to be in this relationship. She gets to leave and then I have to pay her. It doesn't make any sense. And what's always really interesting, I find, with these conversations is that it's always women pointing fingers at men saying, you're afraid, be a man, just work hard, make more money. It's always these shaming tactics when men are fun. And this is what I think gets men marching into the slaughterhouse every year by the literal thousands, if not millions. It's women that are saying, you need to step up and be a real man and marry that woman because you're not a real man otherwise. And I just think it's nonsense.
I don't think there's a lot of shaming. I do hear you, though. There are a lot of women that shame and all of this. However, you know, and I understand your perspective of not wanting the government involved. Let's assume the government doesn't exist. There must be a part of you that wants to make sure your family is okay. So you
What
just
does that
don't
mean?
want government involvement, meaning
I can take care of my family on my own. Why do I need the government to tell me how to take care of my family?
you're with a woman and you break up. Maybe it's mutual. I don't know.
Sure.
But you would make sure that they're still okay.
It depends. I mean, it depends if there's a transgression. It depends if she did something that caused the breakup, or it depends if there's a line or a boundary that was crossed. If someone's going to run around, or she's going to cheat on me with another man, or she's going to do something that crosses a boundary that I've set, why would I continue to pay any money or make sure that she's okay if she's the one that crossed the line and crossed the boundary?
Because
why
she's
would
the
that
mother
make
of
any
your
sense?
children, and their health is important.
So she cheats on me with another man and steps out of the marital home, and I have to pay her because she had my kids?
Well, why would the kid have to suffer? You know,
what would give a woman comfort in order to have
The kid would live with me. I wouldn't ever let a woman raise.
But you have to understand that in
cheater.
both of what Lindsay and Olia said, the mother, hypothetical mother here is kind of using the child as a human shield.
Not really.
Think about the kids.
The kid's gonna suffer.
I'll take care of the
give me
kids.
money. The kid.
but isn't that
I'll set
true,
up a
though?
couch
No,
for
the
the
kid
kids.
suffers whether they don't have a dad or mom. What are you guys talking about?
It's
The
funny
kid-
because
the kid is
I
best
said if
to
a
have a
woman
mother and a
stepped out
father.
to cheat, yeah, but like if she's going to step out and cheat, she no longer gets to be in my house or in my life.
Right, but she's going to be in your child's life.
She should have thought better before she did that.
So
But
you
then
are
the
willing
kid
to
suffers.
sacrifice the
So it's my
relationship.
fault that she chose to step out so the kids would suffer. Do you see where we're
If a
going
man
with
cheated
this?
on me, I would never take away a father from my children. I will not have a
Yes.
husband, but I will never ever take a father away from my
But would
children.
you
no
bankroll
matter what
his
she did, even
lifestyle
if he did
afterwards?
me.
Are you going to pay him
Would you
though? Are you
bankroll
going to
his
pay him?
lifestyle afterwards?
Would I if he was like, you know, he went off the deep end and I had money and he just needed a home, I would pay to make sure he's
You would
alive,
buy him
just
a
so that my
house?
kids have a father. Yes. Because for me, it's really important that my children have a father. It's more important than hating this man and whatever he did to me and whatever he did to my finances. Like,
Leaving aside the reality of the situation, like we're in hypothetical territory, buying a house for somebody is extremely expensive. So this is well beyond the means of even men who
I'm not
still
saying
earn
I'm going to
money.
go into debt. I'm saying if I have the means,
You have to go into debt to buy a house
Okay, rent.
unless you have it in
She'll
cash.
she'll rent them a room. She'll rent them an apartment.
Why? Is she incapable of getting a job? Why can't she work?
No,
I'm
no,
saying-
we're talking about in a hypothetical if, Olia's husband went off the deep end, did some crazy stuff. He's unreliable at the moment. She would make sure for a period of time that he's set up until he gets his act
So
sorted.
funding
I
an
don't feel that
unreliable
makes
person is a
me-
good idea. Like, I'm sorry, but I
It's
live
called
in the Bay Area.
enabling.
We see that funding irresponsible people is just throwing good money after bad.
Yes. I agree with everything you're saying. I'm saying, however, there could be a situation where I would give a man, as a woman, I would give a man money with the idea that for short term, I need a father figure for my children. Like, that's just a high priority in my life. In fact, like the biggest, it's so important to have a father, and especially a good father. But I just view that as so high. I had a great dad. Like, I don't, my brain turns off when I'm like, I would take my father.
We're still
away
kind of
from my
gambling with fake money here. So, I mean, we can say anything we want in the hypothetical, but what if the man was really irresponsible? You would still go down the route of bankrolling him versus taking
Gambling addiction.
full custody of the child.
No, I wouldn't. I'm saying there is a situation where somebody could, I guess I separate them. If a guy cheats on me or does something, if he sleeps with my best friend, like, I'm so
Based.
upset at him, but God, like, the worst is my children not having a father. Like, that's worse. I can get over the betrayal.
But you have to understand
I mean-
that belief, unfortunately, might actually incentivize bad behavior in the man. And we see this in marriages. I think that if a woman, turn it around, if a woman the guy were to say, no matter what you do, I'll make sure that you're okay and that you still have a place in my family's life. How do we know that that's going to lead to the best behavior?
Not in my life, in the children's life.
But you're bankrolling him. You're giving him money.
I'm saying
so
there
he
could
can
be a
have
situation. I
house.
didn't say that I would do it for anybody. I'm saying I could see a situation where I would be like, freak, like, I just need to, like, I can help this guy for now.
I could see a situation where I win the lottery and then I could do whatever I want with that money after that. I mean,
guess-
again, like, that's what we're kind of going back and forth, and we're living in the abstract.
Right. Fair enough.
Do you think society suffers though, but by not having both parents?
I think children do. Go ahead.
I think that children do, but we also have to I think it's important not to completely categorically demonize divorce, because I think that it's definitely better in some situations that the parents get divorced than if they stay together. Like, the sheer act of parents not getting divorced do not guarantee the well-being of the children. Lots of fucked up kids grew up in intact households that were just, they were too afraid to leave, or they were too broke to leave, or they had these cultural upbringings that I just can't leave. And they lived in chaos and abuse for 2 decades. I see these people every single day. I see those people much more than, my parents got divorced because they couldn't get along. And as long as they can responsibly co-parent, those children tend to end up better than dysfunctional, intact families.
I could see that, but I will say about, like, Olia's point of having the father in the picture. I mean, statistics prove that kids that don't have a father in their life are more likely to commit crimes and all of these different things. I mean, that is true, right? Because that father, that man, should be instilling these values, right, and leading the family in theory to have all these things. So it's just interesting, this perspective of, like, men not getting married and just having this optionality to date, whoever they want and sleep with whoever they want. I think marriage is sacrificial for both people. That's the whole point. I don't think it's about you at the end of the day, or it's so me, right? Like, I think it's I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't buy into that either. I think this idea that, like, both parties need to sacrifice, or that there needs to be sort of this 50-50 or compromise is what makes relationships work, I think it's all nonsense. I think that what make relationships work is a strong, virtuous, leading masculine man who leads the family unit forward and makes decisions for the best of the family and the best of the relationship. And a woman submits wholly and 100% to that man and his masculine authority.
Yeah,
I think
but
that's
how
the
can
best way that relationships work. I think it's the way relationships have always worked. And I think only now, over the last, I don't know, 50 years since the sexual revolution and the emergence of the pill, have we started to go away from that. And I think now you're seeing the result. I think the lack of a nuclear family, I think the resulting sexual sort of freedom and this hedonism and sort of what's happening, it's only driving men and women further apart. And so I think one of the great psyops of our time is that we have tricked women, or society has tricked women into thinking that keeping a beautiful home and raising a beautiful family for a man that she loves and adores and that will take care of her and that will provide for her and lead, protect, provide, lead, and guide that family, that is slavery, while going to work for a man who will fire you for whatever reason or any indiscretion, that is somehow empowering. I think that's one of the great cons that's ever been pulled off on the human civilization.
I'm with you, and I think feminism, is to blame for a lot of that. I think it's gone too far in the direction of women's empowerment, to be honest with you. At the same time, if a woman is following a man, how can she trust that man's going to lead her if he's sleeping around with all these people, right?
Well,
That's
I mean,
why there's
there's a
marriage.
couple of
That's why
reasons,
there's
like
this commitment.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much time we have, but men and women view sex very differently than one another.
For
So
sure.
men can easily and without much conscience sleep around with multiple women and then go back to his wife and kids and think nothing of it. They have very short memories when it comes to sexual relationships or sex with women that they really don't care about that much. Women sort of work the complete opposite. Women generally are not sleeping with men that they don't have some sort of emotional response to, or that they don't have some sort of interest in beyond simply sex. Men can do that, and men have done that. I mean, forever. Men. We are not a monogamous people. We never have been since the dawn of time. And it's only because we live in a feminized world and a feminized society where anything that is expressly good for women, even at the expense for men, is good, and anything that's good for men at the expense of women or otherwise is inherently bad. See, the same mechanism that causes women to want to settle down with one guy and find the best guy she can possibly get, that same biological drive, the inverse of that is men want to spread seed far and wide, right? Like women want to have one guy, men want to have every woman. So it's the exact same mechanism, but only one is viewed as correct and the other is viewed as barbaric. You're a caveman, you're a knuckle dragger. Why can't you just control your impulses? And this is why a lot of men are seemingly feel like they're not being heard or feel like that everything that they do is being demonized. So that's the thing. Women cannot sleep around and still maintain a good, happy household. Really quick. Women cannot go sleep with a bunch of guys and still come home and be 100% wholly in love, head over heels with her husband. When a woman is in love with a man, every other man on the planet disappears. Versus a man, he can absolutely do that. And no bones about it.
I was just going to say, I hear a lot of narratives like what you're just saying. Somehow in my 36 years of life, I have never met a man who in reality, his life like showed that. Maybe I'm choosing the men I dated.
The men you're dating right now are sleeping around with other women. So it's already happening. You're not married to these men.
The women you're dating are
sleeping
with 20,000 men.
Not
the
necessarily.
Women you're dating are sleeping around. They are. I have as much conviction in my statement as you have in yours.
Yeah, but one's correct and one isn't.
Your opinion is nice, but so is mine. Like both.
No, this isn't an opinion. This is based on fact. This is Evo's site. This is how men have always gone through
that. So that's why.
Okay, so for the record,
but this is how men have always operated.
Is that what's going on? All the men are they're running around.
Apparently.
No, actually, they're not. Only the men, because most men can't. The only men that can even exercise these options are the very, very, very small percentage of men that most women want to date and go after in the first place. So most of you women are inadvertently. Why do you think there's all of these are we dating the same guy Facebook groups? Where do you think that comes from? Because all
Because
of you
men
single
wouldn't
women
do
are
that. They
because
don't
all
wanna
of you
know.
women are sharing the same men.
Men would not have those groups because they're too scared to know, like you right
Men
now.
tried to
When you're
have
like,
them
no,
and
no,
they
no,
I
got
don't
women
think
are not
that's
doing
the
that
tried
to
to
reason.
me.
have them and they got
That would be shut
down.
down in a heartbeat. It would be
They got-
sexist.
men
It would be
created an app.
misogynistic. It would be anti-women's empowerment and freedom. It's a
Got shut
woman's
down
body. It's her
immediately.
choice. It's no one else's business what she does. I don't see any ring on this, et cetera, et cetera.
Look,
100%.
I don't know.
Fair
I don't
enough,
know
fair
about
enough.
women. All I know is I know some women that are straight up like detectives. I mean, they will sniff out anything like before it happens. They know it's about to happen.
Yeah,
Look,
women are so good at detecting men's narcissism and guys are sleeping around that they're constantly dating really good stand-up guys and they're never getting screwed over and women are never getting cheated on. They're
Okay,
so
yeah,
good
that's
at sniffing this stuff out that they're just
I agree.
they're amazing. They're
Aren't
like Batman.
statistics on cheating is basically, I thought the trend has been that women started to cheat more and more, and now they're like the cheating percentages are the same for men and women. Isn't that
I
true?
couldn't tell you. I have no idea.
I think that's what like
I don't think that's true. I
statistics
think
are.
that there's been a big increase in female infidelity over the years, but I think men still cheat more. What we do know from the research, to Moff's point, is that there are significant differences in why married men and married women cheat. And the main difference is relationship satisfaction. When you compare relationship satisfaction between men who cheat and men who don't, there is no statistical difference. The men who cheat are just as happy or unhappy with their relationships as the men who don't. However, when it comes to women cheating, there is a significant difference in relationship satisfaction. The women who are dissatisfied with their relationships cheat. The women who aren't don't. Like, as a rule. Is there exceptions to everything? Yes, because we're talking about statistics on the population level. And I think this is also the reason there's different behaviors in cheating. I don't know. I've counseled many thousands of men privately. Many of them are having affairs, but I think every single one of them has said, I would never leave my wife. They have no intention of ever leaving their family for this new relationship. Whereas many women who do cheat, it starts as an emotional affair, usually with someone that they know, and they start to build a stronger connection with that man emotionally than with their husband. And they hope and try to use the affair, if they pull the trigger, to launch into a new relationship with that man. We don't see that kind of behavior in male cheating. So men and women cheat for different reasons and because they have different goals. So yes, the amount of female cheating is on the up and up. And frankly, that's because women have access to more of their own resources. There's an excellent play about this called The Doll's House. Have you heard this play, Olya?
I have, but years ago, so I forgot what.
Yeah, it was written in the late 19th century by a Norwegian guy named Henrik Ibsen. And it was like, it totally melted people's brains back in the day. And it's a little domestic drama about bourgeois Norwegian family life. And the man starts out and he's a professional guy. He makes good money. He's got a wife and 2 kids, but he kind of runs his household like a little petty tyrant from time to time. He kind of bosses the wife around and he has a mistress on the side. And the protagonist is the wife. And she eventually gets sick of the situation. And so she decides that she's going to start her own side hustle. And this is in a day when no women worked or had a business. I forget what the side hustle was. But of course, the husband and all of his friends are like, women, you can't do that. You're going to fail. You don't know what you're doing. You're an idiot, kind of a thing. But the wife sticks with it and she starts to make her own money. And by the end of the play, once she has a kitty, she has her account of her own money that's not his. The last act of the play is she goes off to meet her lover. So the issue is, in most relationships between men and women, whether we're aware of it or not, men are exchanging their resources, broadly defined, for a woman's sexual opportunity and sexual commitment. The issue is that in most modern monogamous relationships, is the woman still remains the man's monopolized sex dealer. That man is only supposed to get sex from that woman. And the woman would say, well, same thing for me, but they're trading different goods. Now, but the woman is not monogamous. The man is no longer the woman's monopolized money dealer. She now has her own money, which is comparable to a guy having his own side piece, because that's basically what they're trying to trade in the primary relationship anyway. And we all know how this story ends. Like when a woman says, I don't need a man, what always follows that statement? It's never like, I don't need a man because I have so many good people in my life and I'm so fulfilled and full of love that I just don't have space for another person. It's never, I don't need a man because I already have such satisfying sexual relationships. It's like, I don't need a man because I don't feel like I need to give and to provide. I don't need a man because I can pay my own bills. I don't need a man because I have my own money. And we see this over and over again in the empirical literatures that when you give men more money, they want to share. They want to start a family. When you give women more money, they think, why do I need a man? And unfortunately, for better or for worse, you need a man to start that family, which is kind of what keeps society and civilization from falling apart. So for every 5% permanent increase in income you give a woman, she is 4% less likely from baseline to have a child. By the same token, every 5% permanent increase in income you give to a man, he's 1% more likely to have a child. If we give men more money, there will be more babies. And this is also because women are generally hypergamous. They want a man who will make their situation better. They don't dream of paying a man's bills and taking care of him while she goes off to work. And so as she makes more money, there's a smaller and smaller pool of men that they even possibly consider for those types of relationships. And those men are now awash in female optionality, which is basically what men dream of, the vast majority of them. So until they get out of their Dan Blazarian phase, they have the run of the hen house. And they're not going to commit to any one woman unless they do this polygamy thing, you know? And the women are like, why can't I land a good man? I don't understand. I'm ready. I have a lot to offer.
I just wanted to.
We're all going extinct. What?
Before we end this, I just wanted to, for our listeners, because I've been thinking about this polygamy stuff and I've been thinking about what I think about it, and nobody's saying this, so I'm going to say it. I don't really see other media people say this. Like Greek and Romans introduced the concept of monogamy. And as a result, those cultures have been, not as a result, in causation, correlation, question mark, but those cultures have had great amounts of success. And now when people like Andrew Tate, who to me has these like Islamic flavors and quite, culturally not, I'm only saying this because I grew up in Eastern Europe. So I just really have this Eastern, like European kind of mindset. So when people come in and have these, these views that polygamy is somehow this higher way of being, to me just means like, okay, you're taking advice from the Middle East, from Latin America, not from like the Greek and Romans who introduced this other way. And, 2,000, 3,000, I think it's 2,000 years ago, and have had a lot of success. So it makes me kind of wonder about them.
The problem with that, Olya, is you're being selective. So that is true. According to the ethnologists, about 94% of every human society that has existed has been polygamous, because there's been a lot of tribes in Papua New Guinea and Amazon and in the Serengeti, et cetera, et cetera. However, the most successful civilizations have been monogamous, like the Romans and the Greek, to your point. You know what else they had? No women in power. No women owning private property. It was a patriarchy.
Yes, but have you ever read Marcus Aurelius and how he's talked about his wife? Like, they've also didn't have this, like, I'm the CEO, you do what I say. Like, have you, no, like in Meditations and, just
I know
Marcus
that Cato,
Aurelius,
I've read Meditations many times, and I know that he had good success for his wife, but I don't think that he took
He's
over.
had a lot of respect for his wife and children and, like,
but
women.
she wasn't his boss.
Respect is one thing. Consideration, I think, is what I think Marcus Aurelius showed his wife, as opposed to respect in a martial, masculine way. And Cato the Elder, as I'm sure you remember, said that as soon as a society makes women the equal of men, they've promoted her above him. Like it's not something that is sustainable. You can't have the because it's men who enforce the monogamy. Cultures. In a dysregulated sexual marketplace, no one is telling women to all date the same men. That's what they naturally do. It's the patriarchy that it's like sexual socialism. It makes sure that there's only one woman for one man. And you need men to do that because the women don't do it themselves.
Can
They
I just
don't.
go back? There's a lot of instances in Greek and Roman literature and history books and everything where men, great men, have gone to women for advice. And I think that this kind of, and I'm not saying women should be the CEOs. I'm saying the attitude of like, I make all decisions and I know everything sounds like somebody who's not as, like intelligent people consider a lot of different opinions. And if you have a dumb woman around you that you can't ask her for an opinion,
I think
that's
this is a straw
statement
man argument,
about
Olia.
you.
You're really using categorical language and making a very extreme example as a counter argument, to be honest.
I'm saying if you can't ask a woman for advice, that like, what kind of women are you talking to? Is my question.
I don't think that was said, right? Like the idea is that the ultimate authority lies in with the man. The ultimate decision is with the man. If he wants to go to his woman for consideration or elevates her as a trusted advisor, that's all fine, well, and good. But there's no 50-50 split decision making. He is going to make the decision based on all of the available data and all of the available opinions that he trusts. And there you go. So I don't know if we're saying that men need to be dictators and rule their households with an iron fist, because I do think there are things that women do better than men and that men do better than women. For example, things like picking up on social cues, being very, women are far more covert with their communication, and they're a little bit better in general picking up on unspoken and nonverbal communication, things that a lot of guys have not evolved to pick up, because it's like somebody wants to disrespect, we'll just fight. But for women, right, you're at threat of being killed or beat up or whatever it might be. So it behooves you to understand threats before they happen or before things turn violent, and by understanding covert operations and things like that. That being said, when you're talking about, and like we got some great comments from people in the chat, these Greek and Roman societies didn't let women vote, and they didn't put women in positions of power. And they certainly, Marcus Aurelius certainly didn't take orders from his wife. So
I guess
we want to get back to that, then we can certainly go back to that. But I mean, I think we're far past the point of no return.
Yeah, I was just, actually in your language, I was hearing like women have to be fully submissive or something like that. And I think sometimes when people when other girls hear this stuff, they'll think like, which is what I thought, I can't have an opinion, he's going to decide everything. It's nice to hear that,
I still expect full submission though. Yes. Like there's like what I decide is the decision. And then I expect the woman that I'm with to back me on that decision 100%.
So do you want correct decisions in your life or your decisions in your life?
My decisions are correct. As far as I'm
that's
concerned.
A false dichotomy there. I will step in here. I think one way to think about leadership, we can learn from the military. And one of the first rules about being an officer is to never give a command that can't be obeyed. The second rule is never give a command that won't be obeyed. So it's like a good commander doesn't pull rank, and a good commander doesn't whip those beneath him into submission. A good commander knows when to push and when to rest, when to praise and when to punish. And on some level, submission is necessary if there is difference in status and authority and knowledge. Like you submit to a doctor because he might know better about your treatment than you do. You submit to a martial arts teacher because his technique is superior to yours. If you start making decisions very early on in the process that I want to do this, but not that, you're not in a position of mastery and experience to judge. And since most women want to be with men who are more experienced, who are older, who are more skillful, who are successful in life, why shouldn't they consider his perspective?
Listen,
maybe sometimes the man does know better. Maybe sometimes his
we're
orders
not
are
talking
correct.
about, I thought you guys are saying 100% zero. I'm saying it's not 100. Could it be 70-30? Like there's aspects of life that I understand better than him, and he can. I would love for a smart guy to decide better than me in like 95% of our life.
Exactly.
If you can prove that you're smart, like do it. Especially if you
women say this, and then when I ask them where they want to go eat, they say, I don't care, I don't know. Women can't even pick what they want for dinner. How are they going to lead a relationship?
We have hormones. But I will say, women don't want to make decisions on anything. Nothing. Like if I'm like, oh, okay, the internet doesn't work right now, like, oh, he says it doesn't work. I guess it's not work. I don't want to have to go look and like make sure and verify. We don't want to do that, actually. The reason that Olia is saying, well, like, what about the percentage and everything else, is because like there's not maybe a lot of people that we can just fully relax with and know that their judgment on average is going to be better than ours. But when you do have that, it's really nice. You can just close your eyes and walk around and it's fine. You're not going to step in a hole. You're not going to get like eaten by a bear because they're already looking for the bears.
And by the way,
Women chose the bear.
That's stupid. That's a whole stupid thing. The women in the you guys think all women think that? That is retarded. No women would choose a bear over a man in the woods. I don't know what kind of women they're asking this question to. I don't know what we're being like told on the internet, but that's ridiculous. Olia, what are you saying?
I was just gonna say that there are, like in the world of finance rewards heavily people who understand the word correctly, right? Doesn't matter if you're a guy or you're a girl. Like in finance, if you have a good idea, if it makes money, like you're right, he's wrong. So I don't like. I'm guessing, and I spend a lot of time there, so I'm having a hard time being like, wait, why were we to argue if somebody's like, if he can decide this better, I can decide this better. Like, let's team up and like, let's make sure we win, and do better than our neighbors. Like, what's wrong with that?
They want to have the ultimate authority where the man can come and ask you opinions when they want to, but ultimately they decide whatever they want. I do think that that's fair. Like, that is fair because someone has to make the decision. You can't be arguing about the solution the whole time. Olia, would you want that set up? I actually don't know. I don't know.
I think if I was like, God, this guy's so smart, like he's ahead of me all the time, I'd be like, can you please make all the decisions so I can have extra time reading whatever is interesting to me or doing whatever is more interesting to me.
I was going to say, I don't know about you, but yeah, now I think we speak for all women because Olia is a little bit more on the extreme side and she also feels that way. So none of us want to make decisions.
I don't want to open this can of worms, but I will say what I've seen and what tends to happen is that men who make a bad call when they make decisions, see, part of being a leader and making decisions mean you also have to own the result, especially if you make the bad call. You've got to take accountability and responsibility for that. I messed up. I made a bad call. Now I've got to fix it because I'm the one that created it. That is something that is almost universally unique to men. Women have a very difficult and hard time taking accountability and responsibility for mistakes. And this is not a bug. This is a feature, right? So, if you left the back gate open, hold up, women in general, right? Talking about women in general here.
Your exes.
If you left the gate open and tiger came in and killed all your livestock and women did, it's like, okay, she's out. Like she's ostracized. We're going to she made a transgression against the tribe that was so severe that she is gone. She's now cast out. She stands no chance against the predators. She stands no chance on her own. It would behoove her to point and pass the blame onto someone else. But the only reason I forgot to close the gate is because so-and-so wouldn't stop yapping at me and was distracting. So it's really their fault. Their self-preservation is the name of the game. And so this is something that is not a dig at women. This is something where I say, hey guys, like when we say don't expect your woman to take accountability for the shit she does, just understand she's not gonna. And this is also why you shouldn't put her in positions of decision-making, because if she makes bad calls or does things incorrectly, she's going to find a way to point the finger back at you. So it's probably in your best interest to make the decisions for the relationship. And it's not even a negative thing. It just is what it is.
I think that's a generalization.
What's wrong with generalizations?
I don't think that that's every situation.
If I said all women are beautiful and that's a generalization, do you have a problem with that?
Yes, we are all beautiful. Next question.
Yeah, but that's a generalization. So it's a good thing. It's when you agree with it, it's good. But when you disagree with it, it's bad, huh?
I think you're right that it's a lot harder for correct. I have selective hearing. I will admit.
Right on.
I think that women do have a hard time on average taking accountability. Like I had to grow that as a muscle because when I was younger, I liked to be a victim. Like it was my way of just like I had a lot of anxiety, I think, when I was younger. But like the more you take responsibility and read books like this and whatever else, like your life gets better. So
That's a very masculine book you just held up. Like all those principles of Stoic philosophy and discipline and honor are masculine principles. Those are not feminine principles.
True.
And masculine
I
principles
think in
order the
United
world.
States, maybe those are very feminine. I mean, very masculine. Like in Eastern Europe, we're, you know, we have a hard time like expressing a lot of emotion. It's just really viewed negatively to be emotional for men and women. There's no difference, to be honest. Like if you look at like, I don't know if any of you know this, but like look at like some of the Eastern European movies or whatever, and look at like the female characters and how they behave. I think you guys would be a little bit surprised.
But that's because it's more of a patriarchy there. It's more traditional. Like the women have succeeded in taking in the masculine principles. That's why there's not a lot of difference between.
Wait, I'm confused. You're saying on the one hand, you're saying Stoicism is very masculine. I'm saying in Eastern Europe, a lot of women are Stoic. You're saying,
but they
okay,
steal
Eastern
it from the men.
Because in those societies,
thing.
it's still very patriarchal. It's still very traditional in that sense. And so they instill those in everybody. That's why women are
thought
like
in
that.
patriarchal societies, women are more feminine and just like submissive and do whatever the man says. And that's not really like.
Well, they do whatever the man says. So in some cultures, they're going to inculcate those beliefs and those principles in their daughters. Like Sparta, they still or like in the Lord of the Rings, the Rohirrim still learned how to like fight with the swords. You know what I'm saying? Because they were in an exposed place where they could be subject to attack at any time. But it's like on some level, it was the men who decided what got transmitted. And in peacetime, it makes more sense to have the feminine women. And in the wartime, especially if you live on a frontier between two empires that are often getting conquered, like Eastern fucking Europe, you're not going to put that kind of submissiveness into women as much. It would kill them.
Yeah, I always hear these like, in Eastern Europe, for example, like doing something like science or whatever is not a male thing. That's like an American idea, And so there's a lot of things that I hear people talk here and that I'm like, oh, it's just like an American view. It's not really like that somewhere else. But I hear your point, and I think we have a lot to talk about for future topics, since we're on like Greek and Romans at this point.
Yeah, I feel like
right in my wheelhouse. I love that shit.
You love what?
So do I.
And I'm Eastern European too, so we got that.
Oh, okay.
Let's have an Eastern European.
You should have started with that. I would have been nicer to you.
It's true. Olga does have favorites.
That's just because you like me. That's all.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding you. I like everybody here.
Guys, remember to like all the guests. We've kept you. Well, I think this has been our longest show ever. I really enjoyed this, and I hope you guys come back because this was very fun. So, like all of these guys, thank you so much for coming. Get Orion's book. Check out what Moff is doing for young men as well. You can find his page on Instagram. Lindsay, I'll put all of you guys' links below. Okay. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks,
Thank you. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks a lot.
Good to meet you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Arch Lending is building the most transparent borrowing experience in crypto. Get industry-leading rates from 8.49% APR, borrow against Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Solana, and receive USD or USDC within minutes. Your assets stay protected with qualified custody, no rehypothecation, and verifiable segregated addresses. As your collateral grows, unlock more liquidity, adjust your line anytime, and extend your term with a single click. And with 24/7 white glove support, you're never on your own. Arch Lending, simple tiers, public pricing, market-leading rates at every size. Check them out at archlending.com/debates. Again, it's archlending.com/debates. Use code debates to get 50 basis points off your APR on your crypto-backed loan today.